How can you achieve and maintain business growth? Harvard Business School Executive Education is now accepting applications for a new program, Driving Profitable Growth. Taking place in Boston from October 25th through the 28th, this program focuses on business expansion and organizational growth strategies that can lead your company into the future. Learn more about this 3-day program for senior leaders by visiting hbs.me/growth. That's hbs.me/growth.
Blog Talk Radio. Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Wellness Coach on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Edie Summers. Find us on the web at portlandwellnesscoach.com. The Wellness Coach is your oasis to slow down, tune in, and reboot. Follow us to make sure you're in the know for upcoming episodes with leading experts and celebrities in the fields of health and wellness, spirituality, inspiration, the fine arts, entrepreneurship, and beyond. Today I have a very, very special guest, coach and author Brian Piergrossi. He'll join us in the studio in just a few moments. We're going to be exploring presence, peak performance, and human potential. Brian has a really fascinating story, and he actually was diagnosed with CFS at the age of 20. And then that launched him into a very long exploration of, serious inquiry and study into personal application in the fields of spirituality, religion, and psychology. And so let me tell you a little bit more about Brian before he joins us. Life coach and author of The Big Glow and The Wow of the Now, Brian is a teacher of empowerment, freedom, inner peace, and love. At the age of 20 years old, Brian was suddenly struck by a mysterious and debilitating illness later labeled as chronic fatigue syndrome. Some of you might know that I've also dealt with that myself, and so this should be a really interesting conversation today, not only addressing that, but also what lies beyond. So chronic fatigue syndrome for Brian lasted for years, leaving him in intense daily physical pain and too weak to effectively function in society. When no medical or other authority figure could explain the suffering that was happening to him, Brian made it his life commitment to inquire into human suffering. I love that. What began was over 11 years of committed, serious inquiry, study, and personal application into the fields of spirituality, religion, psychology, sociology, cosmology, ecology, health, arts, science, yoga, as well as the core of enlightenment and self-realization teachings. And I think, as many of you know, this is kind of what happened to me as well. I began searching for answers. And so I just love that this is part of Brian's journey and path, and it sounds like that's the core part of his experience and path. So after leading a quiet, simple life for over a decade, Brian felt a passionate calling to share his straightforward, timeless insights for the 21st century in a modern context with those who are ready and interested. Since that time, Brian has dedicated himself full-time, professionally and privately, to supporting the path of transformation, self-realization, and self-actualization into individuals, families, and communities all around the world. His highly acclaimed books and the viral internet sensation, Love is the New Religion, Spiritual Conspiracy, continue to inspire new readers worldwide. He works one-on-one, by phone, online, and in person with personal life coaching clients from around the world of all walks of life. He leads transformative Big Glow retreats, classes, and workshops internationally. Brian has shared his message as a featured guest on numerous radio and television programs and podcasts. He has lectured at colleges, schools, festivals, expos, and conferences. His online posts are shared with thousands of readers worldwide each day. He's written cutting-edge articles for spiritual magazines. He founded the Big Glow online Facebook community with currently over 10,000 members exploring the inner workings of the mind, body, and soul. And you can find the link for both Brian's website, brianpiergrossi.com. That's Brian, B-R-I-A-N, and then Piergrossi.com. You can also find the link on the show page here for his group on Facebook. It's called the Big Glow Community. So you can find the link for both of that right on the show page here. With the unrelenting soul intention of educating and facilitating the awakening of consciousness inside individuals and communities around the world, Brian is spearheading a movement integrating awakened present moment awareness, peak performance, and human potential in our modern world. When the pillars of my this is a quote from Brian, and I love this quote. When the pillars of my limited mind collapsed, the roof caved in, and I could take in the beauty of the stars. How amazing is that quote? And on that note, I'm going to welcome Brian into the studio in just a few moments. Hi, Brian. How are you today?
Hi, Edie. Doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. Thanks for being here. It's such an honor. And gosh, Brian, I feel like maybe I learned about you a few years ago, and then you reminded me that you had CFS a long time ago when you were 20, and that could have been our original connection. And I'd love to hear about that, but then, of course, that was just the beginning of your journey, right?
That's right. Still continues to this day.
Still continues to this day, really. So the journey, right? Is that what you're referring to, or are you referring to
the journey?
The journey continues. It's always continuing.
The journey continues.
So
yes.
So Brian, I was wondering, I always love to start with story to kind of help people drop people into the present moment. So I would love to hear a little bit more about, how you got on this journey. Was it with the diagnosis of CFS, or was it something else that got you on the journey of, exploring presence and human potential, peak performance, all of that, or was that the starting point for you?
Yeah, I would say it was the starting point. I I didn't know what was going on, which probably is true for many people. I just knew that I was, in my case, my symptoms were extreme fatigue and really intense headaches. Those are the two predominant symptoms. And there were some other things happening early on, rashes and different things that were going on. And so I was looking for answers and going to different doctors, and and this unfortunately still continues to this day, where I was just talking to somebody, a client today, who was telling me the same thing happened to them in a different, for something else they were seeking help for, which is you go to a doctor, and in my case, the doctor would say, I'm not sure what's wrong with you. It might be this, it might be that, but take these drugs, and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, become really about that of, you go to a doctor to get drugs prescribed, whether or not they even are sure what's going on with you or not. So,
right.
But every time I would go to different doctors, and I would get different theories about what was happening with me. And I just became pretty disenchanted with that process, and really realized I needed to find out for myself what was happening with me. And it became a deeper inquiry, not just myself, but why is there suffering in general? What is suffering? Is there a way to transcend it? What's happening with me? Like, what is this life about? This really deep inquiry began. And one of the things I like to share with people, especially people that are currently feeling ill, or feeling that they're sick, or they're in a diseased state, is that there was one positive that comes to my mind right now about that time period was I was unable to work. I was unable to go to school because I was too weak and too lack of energy to do anything. I was actually bedridden for the first 6 months of the illness.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But what I did have was a lot of time, so I was just literally like staring at the ceiling, most of the day and most of the night. And it's kind of like you have to learn to meditate, to kind of, it's kind of like an organic form of meditation, to learn to just,
That's really funny.
to survive on a psychological, emotional level.
It's,
And I had a lot of time to read. And at that time it was the library, so I was just, exploring everything I could, and I started to. The first big breakthrough was I started to learn when I learned about the mind-body connection. So that was huge. I didn't realize that. I wasn't aware of that. So to realize, when I actually think things and feel things, it affects what happens in my body. What happens in my body affects what I think and what I feel. So that opened up this whole new realm of consciousness, And so now I was still working on an external physical level. I was learning about diet and exercise and these things, but my primary inquiry now was on the conscious level, the level of thinking and thoughts and belief systems and emotions, and then I came across yoga, which was sort of like almost like a psychic thing, where I just kept seeing this word everywhere I went. I didn't know what it was. Something is like, turn on the TV, I hear it. Walk across a store, I see a magazine about it. It's like, what is this? I'm getting called to this thing, So then I went to a yoga class and went to a teacher, and just so happens that nobody was there except me, which she said never happened before. So I was the only person who showed up for this class. And so I had one-on-one tutorial with her, and then she started teaching me about meditation, and it became, even though it was a very difficult time physically and on every level, at times, it was also became a really kind of magical time, because all these kind of get in this realm of synchronicity, and it's just one thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next things, and this journey of self-discovery and self-realization, and it's happening. And so on one level, I'm in a lot of pain and discomfort, and things don't look good, like on an external level for me, but on an internal level, something exciting started to happen, and I started to find the answers to the questions I was looking for. And I'll pause here if you want to interject anything.
So I mean, my gosh, so it really is. So, well, first of all, I would love to know what those. First of all, I want to say that yes, I remember kind of the forced meditation, and it's a blessing in disguise, because it really gets you in tune and in touch with what's really essential in life, and you get to experience your soul pretty much, and that is a blessing. And then noticing the mind-body connection is huge, because then you can start to influence your physical symptoms. So that's also, I can definitely relate to that. And then, I mean, there's so much more I could say, Brian. I had, some of it was, much of it is a very similar experience, but it is a gift. I mean, I know no one would say when they're feeling awful that that's a gift, but it, looking back on my life, I wouldn't want to change anything, because it does make you who you are, and you learn. It really awakens. It helps you wake up. So. So what was the turning point for you? Was it realizing the mind-body connection? And I mean, how are you feeling today? And it sounds like there was a turning point. Is that safe to say? And if so, what was that
first
for you?
I want to just speak really quickly about the last thing you said, which I think there is, when you're in this state, if you can realize there's an opportunity there for you, it makes all the difference. Instead of, why is this happening to me? The resistance, it's natural to feel that. I certainly felt it at times, but if you can realize that everything is happening for a reason, and there's an opportunity here to learn, to grow, to evolve in my consciousness, and there's a lesson here, or there's many lessons here to be learned. And then when you accept that, which is the same, root truth, it's so simple, but it's so powerful, and all these different things that happen to us is like, if we can just accept this is what's happening, whatever it is, there's a lesson, there's an opportunity there for us. But
Yes,
while we're in that state
absolutely.
of resistance and fighting and no, this is wrong, it shouldn't be this way, and why does it have to, then we're not available to receive the lesson and the opportunity, and then we can be grateful for it once we move through that journey, that brings us out the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So
well said.
Turning point. Yeah, I don't know if there was one specific turning point. I think it was, a series of small turning points that just continued to happen and continued to move. And it wasn't like, it wasn't like a sort of a miracle, like, now I'm fine, jumping around all of a sudden. It was a gradual progression, which I think that's another important point too, is that when people are looking for going the route of looking for drugs, looking for that kind of miracle, just give me this thing and it's going to be, take care of it right away, which, as I'm sure that just masks the symptoms if it even does that. It doesn't get to the root issues of what's happening. But when you go for this holistic integral approach, generally it's a more gradual approach. It's kind of like you're rewiring your whole being, you're rewiring the whole circuitry of your being. You're becoming like a new human being, which takes time, but it's also what works, what works.
Wow. I love how you say that. I love how you say rewiring your whole being, and oh my goodness, it's so true. And I just want to, say for anyone who's listening who's, dealing with really severe symptoms, there's a lot of opportunity to, I always believe that health resides in your body. So like so anytime you're feeling symptoms or not feeling well, it's an opportunity to be in your body. Like it sort of forces you to be in your body, and then you can sort of, and then also, anytime you then realize the mind-body connection, that helps your body relax, and what you tell yourself your cells hear and your cells become. So there's, and again, there's still, in terms of research and what CFS is and all that, they're still uncovering, although there's definitely, psychoneuroimmunology is very much, that seems to be the field that is finding the most research, so including, biomarkers in the immune system, but also the influence of the mind, and also the mind on behavior, and how that influences the immune system. So it's all interconnected, and I'm so grateful that, I can relate to you, and I feel like we can relate to one another. And then I always struggled, Brian, with like, well, I hope this isn't going to be my life, and then, but because I was always very interested, and I was so interested in human potential, like, and self-actualization in high school. That was kind of one of the main things that drew my attention, and when we were studying, I think, is it Abraham Maslow and self-actualization. And so then Brian, again, we could talk about this, the CFS part and mind-body connection, and forever. But I would love to, explore. So what lies then? What did your life become? Sort of when you gradually became better, and then you started helping other people, right? In terms of, how did you? So let's take a quick break, and then let's come back, and if it's okay with you, then we can dive deeper into, where you are now and how you've been helping other people. And then I would love to know, when did that take precedence? Like, when did the human potential part take precedence for you in self-actualization and, sort of moving into that place of freedom and empowerment and, all of the good things that come along with that, and, becoming an author and coach. And let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And I'm speaking with coach and author Brian Piergrossi. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Wellness Coach on Blog Talk Radio. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to The Wellness Coach on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Edie Summers, and I have a very special guest on the air with me today, coach and author Brian Piergrossi. we're exploring presence, peak performance, human potential, and we've been talking about how Brian was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome at the age of 20, but then he was able to gradually move out of that place and then became a coach and author. And he's a life coach and author of The Big Low and The Wow of the Now. He's also a teacher of empowerment, freedom, and inner peace and love. And Brian has a retreat coming up on September 9th through the 10th. It's called The Big Low Retreat, the 4 Levels of Intimacy. It's in Asheville, North Carolina. And Brian also, I believe, has, he offers master classes and also has a really, I think, thriving Facebook group. It's called the Big Glow Community. So let's talk to Brian now about, Brian, I would love to hear more about, this part of your journey. And, when did this part of your journey really take precedence? And then maybe you can share a little bit more with us about, how you work with people now today.
Sure. So I was what we could call a seeker, for many years. As I was saying, kind of giving myself to this, reading whatever I could, exploring whatever I could, and then as I was able to be more mobile, I would go sit with different teachers and go to different events and things, and that journey continued, and I started to, over time, this was like a period of years, started to, and what's beautiful too is I was saying is like, you have a question and then you get an answer, it leads you to a book, and that book leads you to a reference to another book, and you go to that book, and that leads you to a reference to a certain city, and you go to that city. So you're just following this really magical journey, and over time the answers start to come to the questions. And I think the pivot point I'd like to point out here is there was this point where I felt like I had come to a place where I could share with others and benefit others from what I had learned, and it was kind of happening sort of informally, where friends would talk to me, ask me for advice, and it seemed like they were benefiting from what I was sharing. But I was working this sort of part-time job that I didn't really, I was increasingly, really not liking at all. And more I wasn't liking it. And in my free time, I was kind of like studying spiritual things and, exploring spiritual things, reading things. And, but I was kind of living this divided life, and it kind of built up, this sort of tension just built up inside me, where there was this one night I just, went out at night and just started walking, and I was walking, and it started raining. It was raining, pouring down. I was like impervious to the rain, just walking, and something inside me like kind of broke, It was just this sense of like, I can't do this anymore. I have to like really live my truth, fully, wholly, and completely, and really follow the call of my heart and go wherever it takes me. So the next day I went into my job and I gave them 3 weeks notice that I was leaving, and didn't have anything else that I was, moving toward, that I was working, that I had lined up. And then I also told the place I was staying, which also didn't feel like a vibrational residence, that I was leaving. And that just started this journey of like, I had a sense of like, oh, well, I want to do these things I'm doing now, but I just kind of took the leap, of like, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know, like,
amazing,
what I want to have a basic sense of, but I know what I don't want, and I can't do this anymore because it doesn't feel like true to who I am. So I took that leap and was just traveling for a while and staying in people's homes that were friends, and talking in living rooms to 4 people, 5 people, and awesome. And then it was awesome. And that thing is like, I think with both the chronic fatigue syndrome and this particular period I'm talking about in life, I think one of the things I'm really realizing about our culture, Edie, is that we've placed such a priority on comfort now, about being comfortable. Like, people want to be comfortable, But there's something about being a little uncomfortable that actually I think can be beneficial. That if you're following your heart, and things can be challenging, but you feel so alive. You feel so connected.
Yes. Absolutely.
To your source.
Absolutely.
That the uncomfortability doesn't really even matter. You're not even paying attention to
Fair
it.
point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
And you have to
that,
be a little uncomfortable to grow, right? Like you can't grow
yes.
unless you're a little uncomfortable. So.
Yes.
But it helps to be excited.
There's two
I
levels.
love how you
there's
say. Yeah.
Yeah. There's two levels. There's the kind of external, physical comfortability, but then there's the internal, embracing the unknown. Like, yeah, it might feel uncomfortable, but that's what allows growth. That's what makes you feel alive. That's what makes you feel excited. That's what makes you open to the present moment, is when we can embrace the unknown.
Oh, I love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So then embracing the unknown. So then Brian, from that place, then how do you work with people now? Is that the basis? Is it embracing the unknown, or is it many things?
Yeah, I like what you said. Like, I feel like the way you're pointing to what I'm doing actually feels very resonant, and I really appreciate it. It feels like you can see, who I am and what I'm sharing. So I think it is rooted in the word you use. One of the words you use is presence, and it really is rooted in presence. To me, that's what's most fundamental, and I would say that's what I've discovered is most essential in all of this journey is being present in this moment.
Yeah.
And so I think what I do for people is present, and then I'm a clear mirror to reflect them back to themselves. Through asking the right questions, through guided meditation, if it's a retreat space, through certain experiential exercises. But it's all grounded in presence, and through being present, we become more self-aware, and through being more self-aware, we become more clear. So becoming more clear, we're more open and receptive to the flow of life force that wants to move through us. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally.
Yes, absolutely, and it does, and being present isn't always easy, but it really is where the magic of life is happening. And so the more courage we have, and the more opportunity and challenge we have to be present, then that's really where life is unfolding. And I know it's not easy, right? So that's why it takes practice. Doesn't it take? Does it take practice to be present? Or?
Yeah, I think it's helpful if you realize. It's kind of funny to say it this way, but I think it's helpful if you realize there's no choice. Like, this is the moment there really is. Like, if you can realize, this is all there really is. So either you're present now and you're in the game, or you're not. It's just, okay, this is what's happening. This is where everything is happening. Everything's happening right now. There's nothing that's ever happening anywhere else than right now. So, whatever it feels like or looks like or seems like, if I can be present with what's here, fully, completely, and wholly, this is where my freedom actually lies. This is where love actually is. This is where inner peace, actually is. This is where empowerment really is now, because this now is all there is.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true, and it's also where all the magic is too. And then
yes.
I really believe that. Yeah, it is. And then it's just having the courage, practicing and having the courage to consistently be present, and then that's where life opens up. That's been my experience. And then you can those synchronicities along the way, even when you are suffering, right? Like there's always synchronicity. It's a matter of being present enough to notice the synchronicity and flow of life, and then you can kind of jump in the stream, jump in the flow with it. And so Brian, so we have just a few minutes here live on air for anyone who's also listening live. Brian and I are gonna talk maybe just a few minutes after we go off the air, so definitely listen back to the replay. Let's take a really quick short break again, Brian, and then I would love to hear more about maybe your retreat or workshops or your online community or anything you'd like to share with us. You're listening to The Wellness Coach on Blog Talk Radio. We'll be right back. everyone. Welcome back to The Wellness Coach on Blog Talk Radio. My very special guest today is coach and author Brian Piergrossi. And Brian, we have just a few minutes here left, maybe 5 to 10, and I would love to hear more about, it looks like you have several retreats and going on here. I also see one on August 5th and 6th. This is 2017 that we're in now, talking about the Big Low Retreat, Awakened Embodiment. That's different, right, than your intimacy retreat? Is that correct? You have
that was the last one.
a few retreats coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the last one.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you have. So it sounds like you do these a lot, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So can you tell us about your upcoming retreat, and then maybe other ways people can also connect with you, maybe on Facebook and your website.
The 4 levels of intimacy is interesting because it's actually also rooted in presence. I don't know if we tended to think of it that way. A lot of people first thing you think of is like romantic love or sexual love. And, what if I meet the right person? And if the stars are aligned and astrology and all these things, which I'm sure all has its place. But being present fundamentally with this moment, so you can first and foremost have the intimacy with this moment. And remember, everything that's happening in this moment,
Yes.
So if you can form an intimacy with this moment, you can form an intimacy with another person, a relationship, family, community, primarily yourself, source, spirit, God. All of these things become available to have an intimate connection with when you have intimacy with this moment. So that's primarily what we're always working with. Whatever these different levels of intimacy, we're working with being in a depth of presence within ourselves and then with another.
Oh, Brian, I just love that. And then you say, so here I'm reading on your website, it's brianpiergrossi.com. You're talking about the retreat. It says what every human being wants the most, what brings the most fulfillment is also that which they fear the most, intimacy. And how do we bring the fulfillment of deep intimacy, connection, love, and authenticity into our lives, in our society, and go beyond the loneliness and isolation that plagues us? I really think that is very much happening a lot these days. I think everyone is craving intimacy, and at the same time, it takes being present in order to truly experience it with yourself, like you were saying, and then you can sort of go beyond, and then maybe with spirit, right? And then you can go beyond that. And at the same time, we're so plagued by loneliness and isolation. It's like the very thing that we're craving the most is also we fear the most. That's kind of what I see happening. And
yeah, so another way to say it is, what do people want the most? They want to be, they want to feel seen. They want to feel seen, And what do people fear the most? Being seen. So these two things are happening at the same time. It is. It's really fascinating.
Life does that. Yeah, life is very, very much like that yin and yang that way. So Brian, can you tell us, if you want to, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the retreat, and then maybe your group online as well. You have a really active Facebook group, the Big Glow Community.
Yeah, I'll start with the group. So there's actually 2 groups.
Okay,
there's
awesome.
the Big Glow Community, and then there's a group called the Secret Glow, which is our smaller kind of subscription community where we go in depth and have live classes and things, and that's been really great. And then the Big Glow Community is a much larger group, and it's great. I saw someone posted something the other day just about how do I find a place online where I can find people who are conscious and positive and will uplift me and support me and hold me accountable to things. I'm like, that's what this group is for. That's the intention of it. And, we all can benefit from that. And especially when we feel like we're surrounded by mainstream news, which can be very, can be very negative and divisive, to find an energy that really lifts us, in a co-creative way, lifts us into a higher place.
Yeah, I really crave that. I'm craving that type of energy so much. I've been craving it for years. So yeah, it's high time. So thank you for providing that. And then, so the Secret Glow, how does someone become part of your Secret Glow community?
The link is the link is thebigglow.com/ those things are called online. thebigglow.com/online.
Okay.
And even if you go to thebigglow.com, you can find it there as well, and there's a way to subscribe and join us.
Perfect. Got it.
It's a private Facebook group. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then I can share a little more about
what about your
retreat.
retreat? Yeah, I would love to
Yeah.
hear more, or anything that feels most relevant for you, Brian. We have just a few minutes left here, so anything that feels the most relevant for you.
The retreats are, the amazing thing about the retreats is that it's an interactive space. So it's a space, we can talk about these things and, have ideas about them and intellectual discussions, but then a chance to actually experientially explore and embodying it with other people is what I find is the most exciting. And I find it actually really exciting in a group space, like in a group of like a small group of people, like 10 people, 12 people, where it's a group where you can still know, people's faces and know their names and have a sense of community together and explore kind of this unified resonant field together and opening up deeper and deeper into this unified resonant field together beyond attachment identification to the ego, And I think that's what we're like called to right now. That's what people are feeling called to explore. That's like that's what we're here for. So there's different ways of doing that through conversation and communication and pointing out different things and what I share, and then meditation and experiential exercises, going into pairs, and I am interested in more like embodiment, things that bring the body in, integrating the body as well. So really a holistic approach to delving into this
wonderful connection
within and with others in a shared space of presence together.
I love how you
and then
said
I have
that.
Thank you. And then I have the personal coaching sessions, which are one-on-one, which can be done people anywhere in the world, wherever they are. We set up get the time zone sorted out, and it's great with the technology that we have now. It's so easy to just like do a Facebook video together and have sessions with people that way, and I can really go in depth with people that way, which has really been great.
Yeah, there's something about coaching with using video. I think that's really useful. And then again, like there's no substitution for that in person. So I think I'm a huge fan of retreats, and there's the experiential part of it, and then there's also the transformative power of just being it's being connected to others and the relational space between one another. And also you were talking about even going further, kind of that unified field. Like it really is the best way to heal and to feel empowered too. There's no substitution for in person. So that's amazing that you offer those too. And so Brian, thank you so much for sharing that. And then so your website for people do you want to tell people a little more about your website and how they can find information on there, and also how they can contact you?
Thebigglow.com, TheBigGlow.com.
Okay.
You can find me through there. You can also find me on the usual suspects, Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and all those places. There seems to be more all the time that are arising. And
that's true.
The
What's
website
next?
the website has more access on all the information and things we talked about, the retreats and the life coaching and the books. I have 2 books, The Big Glow and The Wow and the Now, and there's some online offerings that people can sign up for as well, and The Secret Glow and more.
And Brian, and my gosh, we didn't even get into your books. So, I mean, you're welcome back anytime, and I love to interview people about their books too. And so we have a few minutes here, and I mean, you're welcome to address your books as well, or you can come back for that if you like. And then, I'm wondering if you want to talk about your books a little bit, we have just a little bit of time, or if you maybe want to just share like a final takeaway. We can also do that, and maybe we can address your books another time, because congratulations and thank you for writing those books. It sounds like they've been really helpful and successful.
Thanks. I'd love to do both.
Yeah.
I'd love to share a little bit for a minute or two now and come back again.
Okay, sure.
Enjoy
let's do it.
sharing the space together. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
The books are, just in a nutshell, they're reflections from my journey, the journey that I've been sharing with people. They're the writings from that journey.
Okay.
So they come from different parts of the journey and different things that, some of them are poetic, some are kind of prose, some of them are stories, some are just little like nuggets of wisdom or insight. So they're reflections from this journey of, awakening and self-discovery that I've been on.
Wonderful. And one of them, and have both of them done really well, or is there one that really stood out? I mean, I'm trying to remember on your website. There was one that reached a lot of people. Is that correct? Of your book?
It's a tough question because people say, like, which one do you recommend?
Okay.
There's two, you know?
Yeah.
And it's tough, like, the Wow
Both.
the Now is the more recent one. So that's the one
Okay.
that's kind of the more recent to who I am now. The Big Glow is the first one.
Okay.
So I feel definitely a connection with that, and that's like, you know, kind of, and they have, you know, definitely a similar message, but they both have a unique kind of character to them as well.
Okay.
So yes, I would
Wonderful.
recommend both.
Recommend both, and so and that's just amazing that you wrote those. And so Brian, so just with a few minutes left here, is there any final takeaway that you'd like to share with people today, or any final message, or just anything that's really on the forefront of your mind? And I just want to thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome, Edie. Thank you for having me. I think healing.
Thank you.
I want to speak to just healing, because there's so much we could say about that, you know, in the next episode. But just briefly, what I discovered with healing, like you said, the retreats are really healing, and healing doesn't necessarily come through effort or force. But if you just relax and open, and you create a space where people can be authentic and they can really just be themselves, and they feel like they can be themselves and relax into themselves, and that they're, you know, to put it in a phrase, you know, loved as they are, so to speak, you know, so you can feel this sense of unconditional love as you are, who you are now. The paradox is that creates tremendous healing and transformation. You know, it's such an amazing thing, and I've seen it like over and over in the retreats when people are just able to love themselves as they are and just relax, allow to breathe, to allow their you know, the tension in their body to relax, to just, and then the body opens, and the body, as you know, is like, the body is capable of healing itself. But when we're tight, when we're constricted, when we're in a trauma state, we're not allowing that healing to come into being. If you can somehow get people in a space where they can relax and open and space of love and peace and feel authentic and free to be themselves, then healing happens.
That's such a great reminder, Brian. Thank you so much for that reminder. And it's really true, even on the physiological level. You're right. When we're in a trauma state, we're pumping out, you know, like pro-inflammatory cytokines, and you know, so when we are able to relax and be ourselves, which I couldn't agree with you more. The body relaxes; it enters the relaxation response. It's the opposite of the stress response, and you start creating all these feel-good neurotransmitters, and boom, you change the neuro and biochemistry of your body, and it makes a huge difference in healing. So thank you for that beautiful reminder. And so Brian, we're at the end of today's show, but I want to thank you so much for being here, and I hope you come back, and best wishes for your retreat coming up in Asheville, North Carolina.
Thank you so much, Edie. Thank you for sharing the space with me.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you soon. Hopefully I'll talk to you on Facebook. And everyone, want to thank you so much for listening today. You've been listening to The Wellness Coach on Blog Talk Radio. We hope you have a beautiful, healing, and peaceful rest of your day and week and life, for that matter. Listen back for more episodes, and take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.